ask me if I give a fuck about man. Recently I just don't give a fuck about a thing. Ask me if I give a fuck about it this. Ask me if I give a fuck about it this.
Good afternoon and welcome. This video series is not intended to promote the criminals, rather to try and bring awareness to the victims and their families, and maybe make you a little more cautious. Edward James Eddie Adams was born as William Joseph Wallace on April 23, 1887 in Wichita, Kansas. His childhood was unstable, marred by the death of his father. His mother remarried, but Eddie didn't get along with his stepfather. Eddie also had a disdain for hard labor. Instead, he picked up barbering and moved back to Wichita as a young man in the early 1900s. It was back in Wichita that he met John Callahan, a known criminal. Eddie soon became involved in bootlegging, petty robbery, and car theft. Eddie was described as handsome and charismatic, drawing attention from many women. However, his wife eventually left him, unable to tolerate his life of crime and infidelities. In 1920, Adams teamed up with the infamous Majors brothers, Ray and Walter. On September 5th of that year, they attempted to rob an illegal gambling den in Kansas City, Missouri, owned by Harry Truesdell. The robbery went sideways and a shootout erupted, leaving gambler and gunman Frank Gardner deceased. Adams and his crew were captured in February 1921 and was sentenced to life in prison. Walter Majors received a lesser sentence of 5 years, but died in prison shortly after. While being transported to Missouri State Penitentiary in Jefferson City, Adams managed a daring escape by jumping from the moving train. A few days later, he teamed up with fellow outlaw Julius Finney. The pair robbed a bank and general store in Collison, Kansas on February 11, 1921. He was recaptured 6 days later after crashing his stolen car near Garden Plain. Convicted again, Adams received a 30-year sentence on top of his life term, but Adams wasn't finished. On August 13th, Adams escaped again, this time from the Kansas State Penitentiary by sabotaging the prison power plant and scaling the walls. He fled alongside Frank Foster, George Weisberger, D.C. Brown, and Billy Fintelman. Brown was a World War I veteran turned getaway driver. Adams and his crew soon formed the newest version of the Adams Gang. With Fintelman by his side, the gang pulled off a string of robberies netting over $18,000 from towns like Rose Hill and Hazelville, Kansas. During a robbery in Heiser, Kansas, Adam pistol-whipped 82-year-old James Creville for apparently no reason. Creville soon after passed of a skull fracture. On October 8, 1921, police attempted to ambush the gang near Ansley, Kansas, but the gang escaped, leaving Deputy Benjamin Fisher wounded in the process. Just days later, the gang robbed a bank in Ola, Iowa, stealing $500 in silver. Authorities tracked the gang to a hideout near Murray, Iowa. C.J. Jones, a citizen who spotted their vehicles, alerted Sheriff Ed West and his team. As Sheriff West approached the suspects, Adams' gun jammed. In the ensuing shootout, multiple officers were injured. Jones tried to assist but was shot and mortally wounded as the gang fled. The gang continued their crime spree, robbing stores in Muscata, Kansas, abducting 2 women, and setting 2 police motorcycles on fire. On November 5th, Adams ended the life of patrolman A.E. Young in cold blood over a mutual love interest. The gang's most successful heist came when they robbed a Santa Fe Express train near Ottawa, Kansas, stealing $35,000. On November 20th, 1921, Adams and associates, including Madam Foster Nellie Miles, thug George McFarland, and two prostitutes, were joyriding in Wichita when the police caught up to them. A shootout left Officer Robert Fitzpatrick fatally wounded. Adams escaped again after mortally wounding George Odom, who wouldn't give up his vehicle. Adams hid until Officer Fitzpatrick's funeral on November 22nd, assuming that most of the police force would be occupied. He planned to rent a car and leave town, but the shop owner recognized him and called the cops. 3 officers arrived. Adams fatally shot Detective Charles Hoffman. Officer Charles Bowman was also hit by the gunfire but survived. Finally, Officer P.C. Stuckey, hiding behind a pillar, took the shot that fatally wounded Adams. Unfortunately, it's hard to find a lot of information regarding the victims, in most cases because of the victim's family privacy. It's either a cold case or, in this instance, an older case. Gardner was a gambler and gunman at an illegal gambling den located on Grand Avenue in Kansas City, Missouri, owned by Harry Truesdell. Gardner was fatally wounded during a daytime robbery attempt by Adams and the Majors brothers. A shootout occurred between Adams' gang and the gambling den's employees on September 5, 1920. My research wasn't able to find much on James Creville except that he was pistol whipped by Adams for reasons known only to him at a robbery attempt in Heiser, Kansas. Creville soon passed from his injuries. Charles William Jones, better known as CJ, was born in 1870. He was a farmer in Murray, Iowa. He lost his life while attempting to assist the police during a shootout on his farm in 1921. Young was a patrolman with the Wichita, Kansas Police Department. His tenure with the department came to a tragic end when he was ambushed and his life was taken. The incident occurred on Saturday, November 5, 1921, at the intersection of West 11th Street and Llewellyn Street in Wichita, Kansas. The reason for the ambush was because of a mutual love interest. He was just 44 years old. Patrolman Young left behind a son. Robert was a patrolman for the Wichita, Kansas Police Department. He was a military veteran. He was gunned down on November 21, 1921 at the intersection of South Hydraulic Avenue and East Harry Street at 1 a.m. while trying to arrest members of the Adams Gang, just 3 weeks after the shooting of fellow officer A.L. Young. Fitzpatrick was a United States Army Medical Corps World War I veteran. He left behind a wife and 3 children. Not much is known about Odom except that he was a farmer in Cowley County, Kansas. Adams ran out of gas in his stolen car and attempted to steal Odom's car. Adams took his life when he resisted. Hoffman was a detective with the Wichita, Kansas Police Department. He lost his life while attempting to arrest Adams at a car rental shop at 306 South Lawrence Avenue, modern-day South Broadway, in Wichita, Kansas, on November 25, 1921. Detective Hoffman served with the Wichita Police Department for 6 years. He had previously served as the Caldwell County City Marshal, the town of Lansing, and a detective with the railway company. He left behind a wife, a son, and 2 daughters. Adams' body was displayed at the Wichita Undertaker with over 9,000 people viewing the corpse, making a dramatic end to the Reign of Terror. In total, 18 individuals were arrested for crimes connected to Eddie Adams. Join me next time where I'll be discussing John Argue. If you're having trouble sleeping or just need to relax, check out @Boston ASMR. And again, a thank you to her for her assistance in the making of this video series. And as always, stay safe.